In this week's Memes and Machines, we are missing Chris Branch, but the show must go on. Ben and I dived into LinkedIn. The good, the bad, the ugly, our observations. How do you win? How do you stay true to yourself? How do you build your personal brand? All of it in this week's Memes and Machines. Like and subscribe. I can't believe it. Like and subscribe. Bro, I am turning content creator.
Sit back, grab a cold beverage from the fridge and relax because you're now locked into the sounds of memes and machines.
Ben, it's good to see you, my man. How are you?
Just me today. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Just you today, yeah. We have Chris wanting off with Adobe. He's somewhere in the world doing.
I didn't get the invite to that. I'm not a Gen AI leader, apparently.
Wow, you know what it is? Your opinions are too strong.
I'm not. I wouldn't. It's not about who you are. It's about who you know. Always.
You haven't conformed like
No.
Chris. Dirty DJ politician
Yeah,
has
he's
sold
been, yeah.
his soul to the Adobe corporate masters. Anyway, well, Chris is not here. I thought we could have an interesting conversation around LinkedIn. Made today about LinkedIn.
Sure.
LinkedIn for a number of reasons. One, it's my most used platform. As someone that operates businesses, involved in the marketing industry for 15 years, LinkedIn's been a big part of my career. And probably for the last 3.5 years, I've dedicated a lot of time and energy into trying to cultivate my reputation on LinkedIn. And, I think the team there are doing a phenomenal job. It seems in the last sort of 2 to 3 years that they've gone from being the kind of place you host your CV and look for jobs to now truly being a social network. When I would argue a lot of other social networks are no longer that social. LinkedIn is conversation, it's debate, it's ideas. With that, though, I think LinkedIn's quite unique in the sense that there are good things and bad things. And for you, I want your take because you're a content creator across all channels. You're relatively new to LinkedIn in terms of creating there. So just give me some of your observations, the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing, all of it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting platform from a video perspective. Obviously, that's the main reason why I'm on there. I wouldn't be on LinkedIn if they didn't have video. Well, I might have been there at some point, but if I was having to force myself to write, then I just probably wouldn't be as inspired to create there, as opposed to doing video. But then video is also then forcing me to write because I have to write alongside my video, which I quite like. I talked about that in a video I made on my YouTube the other week, in that what I notice is that when short form creators like me are coming over and just putting their video on, they don't like write a text post with it. Like it's just a very like 1 line, 2 line sentence. And I did that first. It's the lazy way. And then you realize that you kind of need to write a text post because some people just read the text, and it's a good opportunity to do so. Even though that I think some of the way that the UI has built on mobile, in that actually on within the feed, the text, you can't really see the text. You have to awkwardly click on it and then it shows up anyway. So I only think the text posts are coupled with the videos are being read in certain scenarios, depending on the platform that you're consuming the content. The device that you're consuming the content on. Whether that makes much difference, I'm not too sure, because I'm unsure on LinkedIn's engagement sort of algorithm and how videos are being pushed out. I think there's some selectiveness going on, coupled with engagement, like videos that have like good engagement, etc.
I think just on that point there, I've noticed they're just going through rapid testing.
Yeah.
Taking a platform that has been almost exclusively text and in some cases supporting images to now video. Over the last 6 months, they've gone from in-feed to a distinctive new feed to changing the typography of where text supports. So there's a lot of change, and I have to assume going into sort of, Q2 of this year and beyond, they'll have probably settled into what the video format is universally.
Yeah.
It will test, but I get the impression that what we're left with, and I'll add some more points to that later. I don't want to sort of interrupt, but I think the video format's an interesting one for anyone who creates content there to consider. But I'll park that for a second and
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me, I think even someone that's just not been on LinkedIn, like as a creator, I like that there's a separate video feed. I think it's LinkedIn figuring out a balance of how much video to put in the home feed, which I think it was a couple of weeks ago there was a video every like 3 posts, and I was like, this is too much. I think it should just be 1 in 5 to 10, and that one be probably like a post that's showing signs of being a really good, like engaging video that has high watch time. But I don't know. Yeah, like because the videos are being shown in different places, and LinkedIn's like just general feed is very much connection heavy, isn't it? Rather than showing you new stuff, which I noticed. Like you don't get shown you get shown stuff from people that you're connected with or following far more than you do on any other platform, which is what everyone on other platforms complains about. Is especially on Instagram, where they're like, oh, I've got all these followers and my followers are complaining they don't even see my stuff, because they're trying to balance showing people the people that they follow, but also showing new content that's performing, content that keeps them on the app. Instagram have actually said they're trying to move away from being so heavy on just sort of discovering new content and actually more content from people who they follow. But
we can't win, Ben. We cannot
you
win.
can't win. And so this
recommendation engine was the thing that took
yeah,
people from zero to hero overnight. And now because you have a big following, you decide, well, I want more of my audience to see what I create. You can't have it both ways.
this is exactly, do you know what? Someone on Threads made said this, and I called them out straight away, and I was like, that's a stupid idea. They were like, oh, why can't our feed just be full of people that we follow? And I went, so how does anyone get discovered that doesn't have any followers? Oh, okay, so you're happy to have that now you've got a following, but what happens if you're a new person on the platform that needs discoverability? Then maybe you have 2 separate feeds. Maybe you like on X, where you can curate your own feed with certain people, and you can have a follower feed and an FYP, let's say TikTok style feed, which is fine. I honestly, I don't really care. I like being shown new content, and I like being shown content from people that I follow. But ultimately, I think I don't always take the side of the creator narrative, because I just think people complain too much. That's quite ironic, because I complain a lot. But
it's half full over here.
yeah, always. If your content isn't being shown to your followers and they're saying that they're not seeing it, well, I would say, well, like the people that follow you, they don't just follow you. They do follow other people as well, generally. Like you're not their only creator. And I argue that, well, if your followers aren't seeing your content, and this isn't true in all scenarios, but there's a situation there where actually the other content being shown by other creators that the user follows is just being consumed and engaged with more than yours. And if a consumer comes onto an app, and let's just say in this imaginary example they're shown 10 videos, and then they leave, Instagram, TikTok has to decide which 10 of what are those 10 videos, and they will be mixture of non-people that you don't follow and creators that you follow. And if it shows you a sequence of 10 videos and you kind of have a bad experience, you leave the app, like they want you to save more for 10 videos. And algorithms are always, this is my just understanding of algorithms. They're always trying to get you to stay on the app for longer.
The only
And it's
objective.
just,
The
yeah,
only objective is to retain you on platform.
precisely. And it's like, it's this system that's been built that is running in millions and millions and millions and millions of things all the time for every user. Like, sort of the TikTok algorithm is far more complicated than people think. And it's just it's sequencing videos, and it's going, well, does this person like these 10-second videos, and actually will watch 500 of them before they come off? Or what happens if we throw them in a 3-minute video, and actually when we do throw them in a 3-minute video, they leave the app? We're not going to throw them a 3-minute video anymore. And so it's all on what the user's behavior is and what keeps them on the app for longer. And if they go, do you know what, we haven't shown one of Ben's videos to this person for a while, let's chuck one in there. Oh, they engaged with it. Let's chuck another one of Ben's videos another time. And I just think this is always ongoing. And it's always them trying to figure out what content to show to consumers to keep them on the app for longer. And there's nothing you can do about that as a creator other than just make good content that, you know, your target audience wants to watch.
I think creators, by conditioning, all learn the algorithm game. You know, whether some people are very in the weeds of their data and they create around formats they know their audience like. Others do it intuitively, but intuition is kind of another way of saying information and data and making judgment based on your experiences. So whether you're in the weeds of the data or not, you are conditioned to the environment. And I want to just ask your take as a sort of creator, and we'll stick on video feed and LinkedIn for a second. So do you think now that, let's assume that in 4 months' time, vertical video is here to stay on LinkedIn, slowly users are more conditioned to use that secondary feed. More and more people are spending time in app and getting richer content. What are some of the, I suppose, secrets of a creator of winning in that environment? Is it the TikTokification? Is it like the hooks matter, the story arc? Is it all the classic social first formats we've come to kind of accept as effective? Is that like the path forward? Is that the only path in your view?
I'm not sure on LinkedIn, you know, because if you evaluate the LinkedIn audience, you'd like to hope that it has the average IQ, let's say, of a LinkedIn audience is going to be higher than most other platforms. If I had to put my money on it, that's where I would put it.
Did you call TikTokers dumb? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Well, the TikTok audience is there's a lot of young people there.
Wow.
And like Instagram audience, yeah. I think that's
Instagram as a vein. You said TikTokers are dumb. What are you slamming your audience?
No. I'm just sort of generally talking about the audiences. I think that's a fair statement to make. If
not a wild assertion that people that are like super into their careers and maybe, you know, decent IQ, I guess,
have a higher level average IQ than people who spend all day on TikTok, right? Yeah. So how is that going to impact the type of content that performs better on LinkedIn? Not necessarily topic based, because we're going to just assume that the topics will be some form of like business, right? Like, or related to business in some way, shape, or form. It's more just the way that it's gone about. I did a video about this on LinkedIn the other day about this sort of toxic cycle of creators over exaggerating and lying about, and it's just happened on LinkedIn, lying about stuff for views and knowing that, like, if you make out something, I mean, it's marketing at the end of the day. If you make out something to be better than it is, and you exaggerate the truth slightly, you're more likely to get ears and eyeballs on your content for longer, because I guess you're making let's say a claim that would be considered an average claim, like a good claim or a great claim. And it's like, oh, it's more interesting, right? And so, and this happens a lot on TikTok and Instagram. And it's, you know, it's people trading views for trust. It's people, but at the same time, I called this out. I actually think people don't know enough to call out when people are bullshitting, basically. Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you're being educated on something that you're very new to, it's very hard to sit there and basically call out people that just end up that are talking shit all the time. And it's easy for me to sit there and do that because I'm in the niche. I know what's true and what's not true. And I think is the same thing going to happen on LinkedIn? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether people are a bit more clued on into the space and whether it's like this sort of clickbait content. Let's just call it that, because it just stems from YouTube thumbnails being clickbait thumbnails, and it's kind of that's just transcended into, I guess, this general term of clickbait content where someone over exaggerates in the hook what something's going to be, and it's not, over promising and under delivering. But are you over promising and under delivering if the person doesn't even know what is over promising and under delivering in the context of the thing that's being educated on?
This is where it becomes dangerous. If we know that more salacious, the more extreme an opinion is, the more extreme a story is, it's more likely to be captivating. We know that to be true. There's a reason that the tabloids in Britain for many years were just headline clickbait. Clickbait is a real thing. So as a creator, as an individual, you're influenced by getting results. You would like your efforts to go much further. I think it takes a high degree of conviction to almost ignore these factors that make the difference between 1,000 people seeing your thing versus 100,000, right? And you will do more of that. And you start to, it's almost, my friend phrased it as, if you A/B test everything, meaning like you default to the most clicked or the most viewed thing, the end result is porn. Like, you just keep going lower and lower and lower and lower and down. And for me, when I think about LinkedIn, I think it's arguably a dangerous sort of path to go down if it just emulates, say, the TikTok algorithm. Because you're right, I think the utility in my life, I'm a little older now, I'm maybe not active on other social platforms. I use YouTube a lot, but LinkedIn plays a real clear role in my life. And the thing I actually love about the platform is it's actually quite a positive place on the internet. Yes, it can be nauseating sometimes, but there's this social pact you make with others when all your employers and colleagues can see you. There's no anonymity. You can't be a dickhead. Like, it's very hard
Yeah.
to be a dickhead and not face consequences. So what you have, by large, is probably the most positive space on the internet. And I do think we need one. Yes, a bit corny at times, but I think we need that place. So I think foundationally, I don't know how I feel about everyone playing the algorithm game on LinkedIn. Will it in several years ruin the experience? I don't know. And then probably like 2 things I'll add to that. For me, B2B, so business to business, is a very it's a very underserviced market. And B2B for the longest time has been like, how can I describe this without being insulting? It felt to me like the place where most marketeers and creatives retire. Like, it's dull. Yeah, I'm trying not to, it's just boring.
Yeah.
B2B is typically boring. And now,
Yeah.
because of LinkedIn having video features and live formats and like recognizing that employee advocacy is a thing, and there's LinkedIn creators, B2B is now a playground, and LinkedIn is that playground for B2B. So I love the fact, as someone that builds lots of B2B businesses, we have a space where we get to be less boring. So that's another one. And then the last thing I'll probably say, and we've spoken in the green room before, some of the people that work at LinkedIn are like genuinely fucking great, like sincere care, happy to help, always pick up the phone. And I've worked with every social platform as a buyer of their services, spending tens of millions of dollars through media spend through platforms and having account managers and senior figures, plus also being a service provider, marketing social platforms in the past. So I've seen all these dynamics, and bar none, the LinkedIn creator team are the most invested and the most sincere. So for all those reasons, I don't want a addictive, salacious algorithm to fuck the feed. That's like my opinion and ruin the experience. But is it inevitable in this general TikTokification of the internet? Maybe, I don't know.
Do you know what? So just on your point that there's a fucking fly. Just on the point on this is something I noticed the other day. I was going to make a video on this. The polarization, I find it interesting where I'll put some thought into this. LinkedIn is one of the very few, if not, and this ties to your point, one of the, if not the only platform where I have seen polarization and not lead always to like lots of views and engagement, good and bad. And I want to just explain this with an example, like a point, because it's LinkedIn is a very agreeable platform. Let's just say this, right? And it's full of positivity. And I think when you create polarizing content, you give people an option to choose whether they agree or disagree. And I think that causes people to do neither, because it's a polarizing sort of video or a view or an opinion that is, not sure I want to comment on that. And so I found that when I just my naivety being on LinkedIn, I found the stuff that does really well is the really like whatever the opposite of polar is like the super agreeable content, like that makes sense, conformative, like status quo, like, yes, that's really obvious, I believe in that, because I'm here trying to be a challenger. Like, I want to create content that goes against the status quo, that challenges common narratives, because I'm thinking about whether it's true or not. And I found that when I create content on stuff that is challenging common narratives, I get less comments, because I think I'm actually causing people to think. And I found on LinkedIn, people don't want to think when they're writing a comment. They want to just go, oh yeah, great insights, I agree. And I've never seen that on another platform, because if I come up with a challenging a common narrative on any other platform or being polarizing, I'll get a shitload of comments saying, no, you're wrong, like people just coming in and chiming in. And LinkedIn, you don't get that. And so to your point about like, are we going to see this sort of TikTokification and I guess to some degree more polarizing clickbaity content? I don't think so, because it doesn't do as well compared to any other platform.
Well, just on that, I get it. The stakes are too high.
Yeah.
If for example, I don't know, you're a fan of a contentious political figure and you decided to comment on a post that you agreed with, suddenly all your colleagues know that you are a fan of this contentious political figure in some degree. So the risk to reward for interacting is totally in favor of being inactive, of being in the silent majority and not participate. It's like so out of kilter. On TikTok, you can be like a little icon, XX34921 Becky, and you can just slam everyone repeatedly, relentlessly slam people. So you can be as unhinged as you want. There are no ramifications for that. Whereas if you are remotely contentious, and look, fundamentally, it's the avoidance of discomfort that human beings default to. So what is uncomfortable? Your colleagues not liking you. We're all sort of seeking affirmation. We're all seeking being liked. So to see this play out, you're probably right in the sense that that social pact that underpins your colleagues, your peers, your network, your professional capacity, like your income, your livelihood, it's too anchored to LinkedIn to maybe see the nasty stuff surface or the more negative. But then do we end up with a bland environment?
Yes, this is the point I'm about to make. We could look at this as a bland environment, because some of these posts, let's set aside that some of these posts are polarizing, cross the line. What about like positive innovation? Positive innovation that, because this is along the lines of what I'm thinking as well, like positive innovation that requires thought. And we're not saying that LinkedIn is going to suppress this, but it's saying that if the posts that do well are the ones that are easy to agree with because they get more comments and they get more engagement and people understand what they're saying and they agree with it, versus people who are driving change, people are bringing thought leaders, bringing new ideas to the table that require thought, to basically for someone to decide whether they agree with it or not. It's not something that's like, if they agree with it, people are going to look at them and go, oh my God, that's horrible. It's like just a new way of thinking. If these posts don't get as much engagement because they require thought and therefore it's more effort to a comment, there's because so my observation is a lot of the stuff that goes viral, a lot of the stuff that I see with the most engagement on is the most basic ass shit that I've ever seen. It's like marketing 101. And I'm like, because everybody understands it. And I'm like, I don't want to create that content. I'm not here to just get like 1,000 comments and likes because I've just said something that is already a common narrative. Like, for me, that's just, I've no interest in creating that sort of content, you know? And
But
that's just...
but all I think that is just accessibility. So when you brought, right, everyone, it doesn't matter what role you do, you could be an accountant and be semi-interested in self-promotion and marketing and content, and you can appreciate good ideas and business. And I think the simplest ideas or the most generic universal truths are just easy to connect with. They're just like simples. Whereas what you're serving is, and I believe this to be true, I think creators that know how to use content to generate the attentions of millions of people, I think you're the best marketeers. I think elite creators are phenomenal marketeers. There's gaps in your marketing knowledge because you do it through a very singular, specialized lens. But as pure like internet creators, I think you're some of the best marketeers. And you're never going to be intellectually stimulated by just saying the like most basic shit. So that's the you thing. But there is an audience for it. And that audience could be huge. It's just not going to be as accessible. It's much more narrow.
But no, but I also think that is also because of the lazy comment behavior on LinkedIn. That's kind of where, like, I get that the simple ideas are, you know, are powerful, but the idea that, like, I just don't like that people just comment on LinkedIn for the sake of commenting.
To be visible. To be
visible.
Just people comment and just say,
and
hey.
The simple ideas are the easiest posts to comment on when you don't really have to like put any thought into it. Yeah. You just go, yeah, nice. And so they're the ones that get the most comments, gets the most traction. And so then there's just loads of just simple ideas on my feed. And that's just, I guess, one of the most frustrating things for me seeing is just sort of like just people being lazy with their comments. Like, and I just had this, like, everyone talks about building a personal brand on LinkedIn, you know, it's just sort of a common theme. And I look and I think what you comment is part of the personal brand building. And if you just comment 1-2 words, what are you, and I see your comment on my feed, what are you telling me about you? All you're telling me is that you're fucking lazy. Like, to be honest, you're not.
I've never actually thought that, but it's a lens into your psychopath. You're looking at comments going, you're lazy.
I don't actually think that about people, but just hear me out here. Like, I want to see you give your opinion because if I look at the opposite, when people who are leaving more in-depth comments are the comments that I read, and I'll go, I like that comment. That's a good comment there. And so I'm like, why people are missing the opportunity to give their 2 cents, to give a different opinion, to give their perspective, so that I can see their comment on my feed rather than, great insights. Okay, fantastic. I'm never remembering your name again. But if you go, great insights because I'm more likely to read the comment and go, who is, I'm gonna say, who's this person? Right. And you're just doing it like that. And so I don't get why that isn't more of a comment strategy for a lot of people, because they're lazy.
No, you're 100% on the money though. But then by default, I just don't think everyone some people are doing it sincerely. It's just to show appreciation to people
Yes,
they
yeah,
like.
yeah.
And they do that on a consistent basis, so I get that. If you're going to engage in a meaningful dialogue, you're right, like, you probably should just say silent, like the post or whatever. But you are right, it's one of the biggest misses. Too many people think of, um, sort of content creation as the singular asset. You know, earlier you talked about the video and you go, a lot of video first creators are lazy and they don't add context in text.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
beautiful thing is there's layers to content. There's the asset, let's say you are video. Then there's the additional context and thought you can add with words, which actually words have a different place because words can convey things in a much more meaningful, intricate way, in a way that video can't, and vice versa. Video can
Mhm.
convey information in a way that text can't. You go a layer deeper, and the third paradigm is comments. And you get to broadcast in other spaces of people in your industry. So it is massively underutilized as an arena, but you're right, you shouldn't just be visible for the sake of visible. And
But
this is,
but
I'll give you my biggest take. What no one measures is negative impressions. Everybody can measure when they have something and lots of people see it or lots of people like it. However, it's impossible to measure when people think you're a twat. And by being the automation bot, you're the person that's literally regurgitating the post back to the same person. That has hit my feet. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing. I can't go on LinkedIn now without comments from bots that are literally regurgitating the thing I said back to me and then
yeah.
putting a question at the end. And it's a bot. And I don't know I'm in the industry. I should know what bots people are using, but I have absolutely no idea, and it seems to be so prolific. And the problem is they might be growing a bit of an audience from people that aren't as, like, in the rabbit hole as us.
Mhm.
However, there's a big majority of people look at that person and think you're a twat. Like, personal brand is about elevating your digital reputation. And every action you have is, in the famous words of Steve Jobs, it's either a deposit in your bank account of trust and reputation or a withdrawal. And for me, there's so many people just completely ignore that you look a twat when you do dumb things, say dumb things, act in a sort of naive way, like all of that.
Well, this is okay. So this is your way of describing what I was saying earlier as people being just fucking lazy. You know, this is the same thing of me saying, like, instead of people just hitting these arbitrary like comment goals that like just for the sake of commenting, you know, what you're showing to other people is that you've got nothing insightful to offer. And to me, I'm like, okay, like great, like and you kind of, yours is slightly different example where you're sort of
I'm talking
saying
about
people that
bots.
bots, yeah, but I mean
Same. Yeah, I get you.
same, you know, if someone puts great insights, they're still a bot in my opinion. So it's like I want to see a paragraph that's just been written by a human being that's like agreeing and adding, or disagreeing and telling me why. That's it. It's literally is this the way that I look at it. Like, and it's fairly simple. But I just think that people are using commenting to just try and like to engage and for the sake of engaging to grow. And I'm like, you're full of shit. Like, just like if it's a question of, I don't know what to comment. Well, you're obviously not following the right people talking about things that you know enough about in order to comment on. And you know, like if there's got to be, if you're on LinkedIn, you're in an industry, you've got experience. You know, I would say most people
You should have a
on something. Yeah, if you're trying to grow a personal brand, you precisely that. You should have a perspective. If it's in the niche that is your like goal or desire to grow in, there's people out there writing stuff that you could have a valid perspective on.
Isn't it symbolic of a broader problem in today's society of everyone wants the quick fix? I want to be able to
Yes.
outsource my personal brand. I want to be able to pay a bot. I want to be able to growth hack. It's this level of impatience, and it's pursuing things for the wrong reasons. Well, like, I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and a very successful person in their field, and she said to me, she was saying she wants to build now her reputation and brand in a certain category and field. And I said, why? And I was really just trying to understand, like, what's your motivation here? You're so successful in so many other things. Why do you even care? And then when you get to the bottom of that why, and it's a sincere one, and you see that it's going to elevate her business interests and things she's involved in, you go, okay, valid, right? But too many people never do those steps or sequencing to ask why. They just go, I'm going to grow unmerited. I want quick fame. I want like a little bit of, a little bit of the pizzazz, the creator pizzazz. I want that credibility. And it's just, I think it's symbolic of a more systemic problem in
Yeah.
this internet culture.
People want the easy path, It's like people want success, but they want to put in as little work as possible. And not necessarily as little work as possible, but let's just say an average amount of work across all of the types of work that's required to get to the destination. And like Alex Hormozy actually, he says, oh, what did he say the other day? He said the other week, he says that like there is no easy way. Like I can't. Oh, what was it? It was a really good quote. He actually does have some good quotes come out of his mouth. To be fair, it was like the only the only way is the hard way. Like that is the only way. Like and most people just don't want. I need to find this because it just kind of said what I was thinking.
He's just been on. It's not been released yet, but he's just been on Steve's podcast, and
Has he?
Again, and he said,
wondering when they were going to get him on.
Yeah, I think he's been on before, but because Steve's in LA now, he's been on the podcast, and he just said it. Steve said it was like 4 hours of business gold, like real actionable. I'm not a particular fan of Harmo. I'm not a fan. I've just kind of stayed away. I'm probably too old.
He's an out and out salesman, and
yeah, I think my default position when anyone sells really hard and sells courses, I always just think they're a scam artist. So I default to that's my like natural hesitation. So I've not warmed him, but I do see wisdom in a lot of the clips that you see. But I'd say that's intuitive, that's smart, it's thoughtful. Yeah. You're probably a positive influence on lots of young people. You say go to the gym. I much preferred that narrative. But yeah, Steve's very critical, like he's got a high bar for like knowledge. So for him to say it was like gold means it would have been a really thoughtful conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it's the hard way is the easy way because the easy way never gets you there.
Boom, poetic.
That was like, that's so true. That's so true. It's like a lot of people, I guess, just when you get hit with the realization that the amount of work required to achieve the thing you want is, beyond what you expected, it's like, you then have to consider making sacrifice. Well, you have to make a lot of sacrifice and in and amongst areas of your life that perhaps you're not willing to do, or you're willing to do for a couple of weeks, and then things get in the way. And this if we relate this back to LinkedIn and content creation, it's putting in the extra 5-10 minutes to do the comments. It's putting in the extra work to come up with better ideas for text posts to videos, doing this alongside your job or whatever, the freelance work, etc. It's always never enough. Like there's this, it's time consuming, incredibly time consuming creating content. And it's it's even more time consuming creating good content.
100%.
And people realize that like when you first begin starting to create content, the output is pretty poor because you just haven't done it enough, and it's still very, very time consuming. And the thing is, it doesn't get quicker because your standards get higher. Yeah. And you end up then spending more time, and you're like, oh my God, this is taking up a lot of time, and I have to do this for not ever, but you never retire, right? But you just like weeks, months, years. And
this is why that's why it's critical that your why is so sort of crystallized in your mind, because do anything for the wrong reasons and it will never be sustainable. I say to people, like with Memes and Machines, even starting a podcast for years, I've been like a massive podcast fan, and there's been many times well before the kind of boom of, would you like to have a plot? And I never had a why. And mine genuinely was, I want to stay very sharp with as a marketeer. And to do that, I need to have a regular conversation with friends about marketing and tech and like the stuff involved. And if I have that as a vehicle, I would do that in perpetuity if no one listened or there wasn't any value. Of course, you would be silly to invest time into something if there wasn't other potential outcomes. But my motive was a very simple, sincere one. Conversations I enjoy on a regular basis about marketing. Like, put that at the first foundation. And because of that, you can just show up in perpetuity and it's not too much effort. If I said to you at the start of this thing, right, we're going to grow a podcast and we're going to do this and we're going to shift gears and then we're going to focus on this and we're going to do this, and it's work. And that's not what you need, because the level of sacrifice, the level of consistency, the level of commitment required to be good at anything is significant. So you've got to have that really strong rooted why. And look, if I just spell out why should you even care about LinkedIn content, if your career means a lot to you, your professional endeavors, you should probably learn the art of content creation on LinkedIn. You'll be more visible, you'll get more opportunities. And if you want independence and to start a business, it's almost a non-negotiable for entrepreneurs today. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
non-negotiable
sure.
if you want to start a business at some point. So it's the same adage of you should have started yesterday. When's the best time to start? Yesterday. So, you're probably going to, and it's funny, like, because I'm backing founders now and restarting companies and building new companies. I'm like the most honest person in the world to them. I tell them that I said, everyone's going to ignore you for about 3 years and you're going to be really rubbish at this thing, but keep doing it. And I'm going to keep pushing you and I'm going to keep telling you when you've done wrong, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I'm going to explain why. And my perspective isn't the only one. Doesn't mean I'm right, but it's just one perspective. I've walked the path that you want to walk. And as a consequence, I'm giving that like real radical candor. And in like a weird irony, I get the sense that they very much appreciate it. I'm just like dad role.
Yeah, I think on that point, loosely on that point, it was just something that I thought about before this episode around LinkedIn, posting on LinkedIn. I can't remember who said this, but loosely it was like, LinkedIn is full of people, in my opinion, talking about stuff that's not that interesting, but they're making something out of nothing. There was this, everyone outside of LinkedIn, including myself, before I came back onto the platform, it has this perception of just like people just sort of like, oh yeah, just passed my driving test and I learned, that kind of like,
Congratulations, I just passed my driving test.
That's what it kind of used to be, right? Just celebrating like stuff that
corporate job.
Yeah. And it kind of led me, and I can't remember who this person was that said it, but it's like just do interesting stuff, right? And then talk about the interesting stuff, and it kind of, and I'll expand on this a little bit more. It's like, and I'm going to go into storytelling here as well, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I'm going to talk about Alex Earl is also in this as well, just randomly. If you do interesting things, it's far easier to get people's attention, irrelevant of your ability to storytell and create content, because you're doing interesting things, right? And if we look at this at a really sort of extreme example, let's just say you were the guy that did the skydive from space, right? Like, I'm not saying that's just an extreme example, versus, the person that, just passed the driving test, which is going to be easy to gain interest, right? The guy that done from space. And so if you're like wanting to create content on LinkedIn or any platform, but you're not really doing interesting stuff, you put yourself in this position. You've never created content before, and arguably you don't really know how to story tell and kind of craft narratives within content. And that's very, very difficult. So if you combine the fact that you're not doing interesting things and you're not very good at turning non-interesting things into interesting posts, because that's a skill in itself, and that's what people have done who are good on LinkedIn. They turn like kind of boring stories into interesting stories. That is hard, very, very hard. If you're doing interesting things, you don't have to worry too much about that skill. And this leads us on to Alex Earle, because I'm not anti Alex Earle. I don't love her, don't hate her. I'm curious on her growth and I would find myself reading articles about, how relatable and how great a storyteller she is. And I used to watch Alex Earle do her Get Ready With Me because I was curious, like, is she a good storyteller? And when she starts her video with, I went to Drake's party last night. In my head, I'm thinking, is she a good storyteller or has she got good stories to tell? Big difference, big difference. And it related back to content and this thing that I said at the start. If you do interesting things, then it's easier to get people's attention, irrelevant of your ability to like how you deliver that information.
Yeah,
and so, oh my God, if you go to Drake's party last night and you're an incredible storyteller, well, then you hit the jackpot. If you're not doing interesting things, but you're an exceptional storyteller, great.
Why this is such a beautiful point, I think is sort of a nice one for us to be concluding on, is going back to personal brand. Personal brand should be personal. And I'll give a shout out to one of my old business partners, Rebecca, founder of a company called Our Agency. And she was phenomenal at kind of networking. And she used a phrase to me, which is exactly what you said. I was like, how do you, I said to her, like, how are you like working the room so well? And she went, interested and interesting. That's all you have to be. Like, you're interested in those around you. You're curious and you're interesting. You say interesting things. That is it.
Yeah.
You don't have to deviate beyond. And there's something like beautiful about what you're saying there. Like if you're interesting and interested, like that to me is like the foundation of what you should be through your personal brand, through your content, through LinkedIn. And actually, the further you remove yourself from like the noise of growth hack, comment bots, engagement groups, pods, and really, really just anchor to those things, you'll probably set yourself up for success.
I guess that interested goes nicely with the comment debate that we were having, because it's like, that is exactly it. If you're leaving engaging comments, you show me that you're actually interested in that thing. It's actually part of your interest and you're curious about that space. And I think that potentially you have got other interesting points to share. But yeah, that's literally sums up what I was saying. And it goes down. If you're not doing stuff that's interesting, then you've got to go out and do interesting things. I don't know.
I love it. Interesting.
What that is could be stuff with inside your role or stuff outside, and I think this also. So I'm digressing here a little bit, but we haven't spoken about this. But I know that you'll have thoughts on this. Because I've seen Michael comment on this the other month about people commenting about other campaigns, other interesting things. And he sort of left a comment like, why aren't people talking about the things that they're doing, the interesting things that they've done? Like everybody's talking about, Jaguar, the rebrand, the Apple, the severance thing in Grand Central. Like, what are you doing that's interesting? Nothing, maybe? I don't know. Or because people are finding it difficult to find the interesting things in their life that they turn into interesting stories to put on LinkedIn.
It's the biggest bugbear of mine. So 90% of marketing is boring. 99% of marketing is boring. And I'd even go as far as saying, doesn't mean ineffective. If you want to drive an action, I can put up a red sign and say 50% off. It's not creative, it's not interesting, but it is probably effective. So, the role of marketing is to be effective. Let's part that for a second. However, as an industry, we live for the 1%. We live for the big moments that make the ideas that connect with the world around us, that make us stop and feel something. Hilarious. That's funny. That's witty. That's smart. And those ideas are few and far between because we don't have a economic system that that promotes and makes it easy for great ideas to live. We have a risk avoidance system. If you go to your board and say, I've got this big idea, it's going to cost a lot of money, I can't attribute it, but I think everyone's going to talk about it and it could change the trajectory of the company, most people will tell you to piss off. So we have an industry where we have to do boring things. We pick that one channel that we can do over and over again predictably and grow. And I get why. I understand why. However, as an industry, we live for the 1%, and they are few and far between, and most work is boring, dull, not very good, and I will die on that hill. I had a few people argue with me going, well, it's semantics, it's not, not all marketing, not 90% of marketing is not shit. And I went, it is. Unfortunately, 90% is shit. And there are other contributing factors. Anyone can be in the marketing industry. There is a very low bar to entering. That's a factor. We don't pay enough. So if you're really smart and you're great ideas, you're going to leave marketing or go work in-house or set up a company. You're going to leave because we can't pay you enough. So there are many factors why most of marketing is shit. But yeah, you wound me up there. You knew you were going to throw that ball.
Why do you think then you said creators are some of the best marketers? Do you just think because they are
because they're naive,
doing it for themselves? Like,
no. I think because they're naive and self-serving. Yeah, self-serving is part. I say naive is because you haven't been conditioned to I can't do that, or you're not thinking. You're thinking in very singular terms. I want to create great stuff that people love. And marketing companies are thinking about, what does my colleague think of that? Is the customer service department going to have an inbound? Is that going to work within the constraints of my budget? You don't think like that. So that linear focus means that you're unfiltered and you get to behave in a way that brands in most cases can't. And there's this other thing in the industry. I love marketeers do these retrospective breakdowns of why a campaign was great. And I'll use Duolingo as an example. Everyone celebrates Duolingo.
Wait, you're being sarcastic because I thought you didn't like it when people do the retrospective breakdowns.
No, I think it's hilarious. I'll tell you what. I know I'm being serious. I think it's hilarious because when you do a retrospective, everyone likes to tell the story that it was really intentional. We did this plan and it was derived from this unique insight. I promise you, as someone who's been 15 years in the industry, had a few major wins, many losses, I will tell you that every good idea is almost accidental. It's cool, it's novel, it's not that thought through. It's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. It kind of works. And then the retrospective is it was this science. It was the perfect formula. And as a consequence, all that happens is businesses get addicted to the 1%. It's like crap to them. And then you end up with Duolingo. That's what happens with TikTok front and center because they had one win, they empowered a social team, they got a little lucky, and they just tripled down. The bit where I respect the business is they saw the opportunity and they were brave enough to take advantage of it when many of their counterparts were not. So I respect bravery, but the retrospective that they're the smartest people on the planet doing amazing creative is bullshit. That's all nonsense. That just doesn't exist.
This is the similar narrative in the book, The Psychology of Money book, where he talks about, these people that have won big, timed the market right, and then they retrospectively look, oh yeah, I calculated that, oh yeah, greatest, one of the best investors. Got lucky a few times, allowed them to get momentum, position in the market, and then just grow. But actually, a lot of it was luck.
But do the right things consistently, and luck works with you and not against you. That's the truth. You can set yourself up to have more luck, but fundamentally, these marketing retrospectives of genius. I love the Barbie language that went on where people were celebrating Barbie did these 120 partnerships. All they did is went, we're going to let people co-create with us. We're not going to be arseholes with our IP. We're going to put the brand, it's pink, in the hands of others to do shit with. 98% of them were like rubbish activations. 2% were amazing. There you go. Barbie
Yeah, because
internet.
I agree, because you could probably find tons of marketing campaigns that have
Did the same.
completely flopped. But if you look at them like conceptually and evaluate the differences between them and a successful campaign, you'd probably say there's not much difference. And it all came down to just right place, right time, and a few nuance variable factors that just that contributed to just a snowball, and then this huge success. You go, oh wow, it's because they did this, and it's like, but so did these campaigns, and they didn't have the success. And it's like there was some nuance factors that just caused snowball, and actually, realistically, if they did that same thing in another year, would it have had the same impact and same success? You might say, flip a coin.
And you know what I would say though to that, mate? You're 100% right. In a lot of cases, it doesn't have the same impact. And usually great ideas are like reheated ideas. It was a thing or a concept or a mechanic that worked well in the past, and it's just been re-engineered. So like the idea, look, marketing's simple. I need to juxtapose, like, you expect to see this on your screen. If I give you something different, it's going to stand out. There's simple mechanics that you can do over and over again, and they are universally effective. What I will say about the industry is, though, one single ad, one single campaign can change the trajectory of your business. And it can do two things. One, like materially, can take you from like ambiguity to famous, but it can also, in the same way a single post can change a creator's trajectory, a single podcast. So being active in the community is beneficial, because in 10 years, you just might have one thing that defines you. And that's okay, by the way, because that can change everything culturally, mentality wise, ambition wise, or tangibly. So I'm a big believer in that, like one ad, that one campaign, that one idea that will change your life. And the only way that you take advantage of that is like you're just active. You're doing. That's my philosophy now. Certainly co-created anyway. Bro, I need to bounce because I got an important call in 10 minutes. But this is fun.
Sweet. Nice one.
Right, take care.
Bye-bye.